Hey everyone, welcome back to Dev Parkour. In this video, I want to talk about scaling customer service, and specifically the fact that customer service doesn't scale. And what I mean by that is that small businesses typically have as one of their core principles strong customer service. That works out really well for small businesses. But as businesses grow, it just becomes very challenging to truly focus on customer service. And the reason for that is that it just doesn't scale. Customer service at its core revolves around people, which basically means that every time you add a person, that adds more expense, which I'm not knocking that. I am absolutely all for providing jobs for people. That's not what this is meant to be. However, customer service scales at least linearly, possibly worse, with the number of customers. So depending on how many customers you have, that's how many customer support people you need to have. Maybe not one to one, hopefully not one to one, but at the very least you need to have maintain some ratio of customers to customer support people. And as your organization grows, then you introduce management and that sort of thing, and now you're scaling more than linearly. It's really easy to see this if you illustrate this with a simple example, right? We're talking about the software industry, so let's use a software example. Let's say you have a software product that has a bug in it, just one. I know this is the ideal case, just one bug that requires, or occasionally customers will call in about this bug. Let's say over the course of a customer's entire time with you, they will call in at least once about this bug. That means that if you have one customer, you need to have some person who is available to respond to calls about this bug. If you have two customers, now you need probably just one person. As that continues to scale, each customer, you know they're going to call in about that bug. So if you don't have enough people to field those calls, you're just going to get crushed by customer support inquiries, bug reports, incidents, whatever you want to call it. Now, most pieces of software don't just have one bug. And typically, over the course of the software's lifetime, additional bugs creep in, and additional customers will find new ways to either uncover old bugs or to uncover new bugs. Either way, you're going to have a lot more than just one bug, certainly a lot more than one bug per customer. And the more customers you have, at a minimum, you just need to have more customer support people to be able to field the same level of inquiries. So what does that mean from a software perspective? Because this is a software engineering channel. One of the dangers that I see software engineering teams fall into is the idea that we build it and then it's support's job, responsibility to handle bug reports, general support, questions, that sort of thing. And that is a very unsustainable way of thinking. You very rapidly hit an upper bound, an asymptote of how many customers you can realistically support as a business before customers start to fall off. You start getting to a point where the more customers you bring on, the more customers you also start to lose in non-renewals and that sort of thing. The way to combat this is to really think about support and quality up front, early in the process. So that means that bugs that are being reported on a regular basis, they need to get fixed. They might not seem super important, they might not be super critical to data, but they are stealing time from your support staff that they could be spending on new things that you haven't seen before. And they're also stealing your customers away from you. They're stealing your customers' time in talking to support, that sort of thing. It also means that you should be thinking about customer onboarding and customer discovery of new features through the design phase. That's not something that you should wait until the end of the process, until you get it into customers' hands to figure out, what sort of documentation you need. You should be addressing that early on in the process, doing user research, doing user testing, potentially even comparing yourself to competitors. Um, if you're building a feature that your competitors have, there's nothing wrong with implementing that feature the exact same way if your competitors have implemented it in a way that makes sense to customers, right? Listen to your customers, listen to your ex-customers, listen to people who have onboarded with you after using one of your competitors. If they complain about the way the competitors have built the feature, that's fine, don't build it that way. If they've really liked the way the competitors have implemented that feature and it makes sense to them, or even if they haven't said anything about it and they just say, oh yeah, this thing, I've used it and it just kind of made sense, follow suit. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel just to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to be different just to be different. In some cases, being different can be a bad thing. Like this case, ultimately you want to have something that works for your customers, so that customers don't have to call in, or don't run into issues. B, when customers run into issues, you want them to be able, ideally, to be able to solve those issues themselves. And then finally, if they do have to call in, you want to make sure that your support staff is properly enabled to solve the problem. So they need visibility into what's going on behind the scenes. They need the ability to decompose larger workflows and be able to troubleshoot and debug. One of the worst things that I see organizations do with their tier 1 support staff is give them scripts. If someone calls in with this issue, do this thing, which 90% of the time doesn't do anything. One job I worked at, one of the common requests, this was a web app that the support team was supporting. One of the common requests that support would ask of people calling in was, clear your cookies, clear your browser cache. And I asked them, what percentage of issues does this actually fix? And I was surprised to hear that it was 50%. That was far higher than I was expecting. But at the same time, I mean, that's such a simple thing, and realistically, from a development standpoint, we should be able to solve that. It should take the number of people who call in and all they have to do is clear their browser cache shouldn't be that high. There should be no issues that clearing your browser cache is actually a fix for, or very few. But at the same time, that's something that's so scripted and so that's a sledgehammer approach. I would much prefer a surgical approach. Be able to identify what the issue is and then be able to find a solution for it. So I think I'm kind of rambling here, but you probably get the idea. The goal here is, make sure everybody's empowered along the way. Make sure that your development teams are thinking all the way through to how customers are going to be using this, and make sure that they have the information available to them about how customers are using it, how customers are approaching it, how customers are thinking about your software, and then make sure that your customers are equipped to troubleshoot, and through knowledge articles, utilities, whatever. There are multiple different ways to approach that problem. And then if they do have to call in, make sure that your support staff is properly equipped to handle that issue. And ultimately, you could build lots of processes around this. So if a tier 1 can't fix the issue in, say, half an hour, maybe you escalate to a tier 2 or something like that. But really the goal is that you don't want, let's say one support analyst can handle 100 customers. If you want to go for 1 million customers, you don't want to be hiring 10,000 support analysts. I think I did that math right. That's just not really scalable, right? And you talk about apps like Instagram. Their customer service is non-existent, virtually non-existent, because they have so many users and so few support staff that they just can't handle all of the inquiries. Part of the issue is, and I ran into this with one of the Instagram accounts I created for one of my companies. For some reason, when I created it, it got flagged as spammy or something. Immediately got deactivated. Some automated process, right? Now the problem is not that they have some automated process that's identifying this. The problem is that they don't have enough people to spend enough time, making sure the automated process did the right thing. Or if someone responds to the automated process and said, in my case, I did say, hey, this got incorrectly categorized as spam or whatever against the terms of service. Can I get it reactivated? Ultimately, I was able to. So somehow I was able to get to a customer service representative. And I was actually kind of surprised because everything I found online said, volume of users versus number of support representatives. They just don't have enough time to spend fixing some of those miscategorizations. And I totally understand that because, yeah, if however many millions of users they have, if they all started calling in with some issue, that's a lot. That's very expensive to handle. It's much cheaper to make sure that things work earlier on in the process. And I will actually say, on the whole, Instagram works very well. I've yet to run into a bug with Instagram. I do think some of these companies that have been operating at scale and are capable of operating at scale, the newer companies, the Facebooks, the Googles, the Amazons, the Netflixes, and all those companies have been very good at figuring out how to design their software engineering processes so that they think about the customer, so that they don't have to deal with as many customer support inquiries. And they also have a well thought out process for when customer support inquiries do come in. Whereas older companies, I can think, I've just been dealing with Xfinity, the consumer side of Comcast, for the last week, getting my TV set up. They do not have it as nearly as put together as some of the companies I just mentioned. It's a little bit frustrating. The user experience in the applications is not quite there, and the chat, they have a live chat feature that is very much scripted reply. Yes, you can get to a person, but they have a set list of troubleshooting steps. And in my case, nothing that they tried was going to solve the problem. Now, having gotten through the all the way to the solution and seeing what people actually had to do, which I was able to call on the phone, talk to several different people in multiple different departments. They actually coordinated very well and got my issue resolved. But now seeing what they had to go through, and I would say even they could have had been empowered a little bit better to solve the problem, because I did have to go back and forth between several different departments. It wasn't just one person who could solve everything. So I think there could have been a little bit of improvement on the empowerment side, but the people manning the live chat, definitely, they never would have been able to solve the problem. So sorry, Comcast, you've gotten better over the years, but you still have a little bit of a ways to go. Unfortunately, I can sympathize with Comcast because I know once you're in a situation where you're kind of, it's kind of a form of technical debt, I suppose. Once you've dug yourself into this hole of unsustainable customer support, or customer support where the load is greater than really ideally would be, it is very hard to bounce back from that. You kind of have to start at the foundations and work your way up. So it'll be a challenge, and it's not something that's going to change overnight. If Comcast does, work on rethinking how they do customer support in this way, it'll probably be 5-10 years. Legitimately, it takes a while. With it, the larger the organization, the longer it's going to take, and the longer the organization's been around, the more kind of historical process and baggage it comes with. So it'll be a challenge. I believe that if they want to, they can do it. Absolutely, it is well within their power to do it, and it is well within your power to, depending on what company you work at, it's within your power to stop the cycle of unsustainable customer support. If you're a developer, you can make sure you're always thinking about the customer and try to get more user research and user testing, so that ideally your customers aren't frustrated and don't need to call in as often. If you're on the customer support side, you can help start improving these processes. And if you're at a small company, you can make sure you don't fall into this cycle. If you're at a large company, you can at least start the wheels turning to get the momentum going in the right direction. Happy to talk more about this in the comments. If you have questions about specific aspects or your own thoughts, go ahead and leave a comment down below. If you like this video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. Click that notification bell so you'll be notified when new videos get posted. Hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. I will see you tomorrow.